The Oklahoma Sooners are healthier coming out of the bye week. We got live reaction to Brent Venables' weekly press conference coming up on today's episode of Locked On Sooners Live.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners live reaction to Brent Venables' post-weekly press conference, not post-game press conference, post-weekly press conference here on Locked On Sooners. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire and USA Today Sports. On today's show, we're going to talk about Michael Hawkins and what the coaching staff, Ben Arbuckle, Brent Venables, had to say about their new starting quarterback with John Mateer out. We'll discuss Ben Arbuckle addressing some of the head coaching consideration that he's getting from a lot of media members. We'll talk about that. But let's start with Oklahoma's health. Brent Venables, Ben Arbuckle talked about the health of this team. And Venables mentioned in particular in his opening statement that they're healthier coming out of the bye week. And I know John Mateer is the major focus, and as it should be, the most important position on the field. But as we know, going out of the Auburn game, the offensive line was dealing with injuries to Michael Fasusi and Jake Michael and Fabechi Wiwu. Those three, Wiwu and Michael played through the Auburn game. Fasusi was only able to get 9 snaps in and wasn't quite healthy enough. But coming out of the bye week, sounds like they're healthier, and that's great news for that group up front. I'll be curious to see how much they extend them against Kent State, how much they'll play those guys, because you don't necessarily need them to be out there for 100% of the snaps. I think for Oklahoma to be able to go get a win against the Golden Flashes, you really need them healthy for the next weekend in the Red River Showdown against Texas. But sounds like promising stuff from that group. He didn't mention anybody by name specifically, but just said, hey, we were dealing with some things and we're healthier coming out of the bye week. That's encouraging. You need to have continuity and chemistry along your offensive line. And if those guys can maintain their health, if those ankles can get stabilized and get stronger over the next couple of weeks, you'll feel a lot better about where you're at going into the Texas game. So again, I'll be curious, will Michael start this week? Will Fabechi Wiwu get the start? Will they go with Ryan Foje at right guard instead of Wiwu just letting him have another week of rest? He's a veteran player. You don't necessarily need him to go out there and run unless you're trying to install some new run concepts, but I don't imagine that they're trying to do that. So I bet we see a little bit more of a rotation among the offensive line guys. Logan Howland has played well in pass protection, even if he hasn't necessarily stepped his game up as a run blocker. So you can run Logan Howland again out there at left tackle, and I think you can still get really productive play out there, even if he's not your best option just yet. You can rest Michael Fasusi another week and have him a little bit more healthy going into the Red River Showdown. Center is a little bit more complicated now that Troy Everett's out for the season. You don't have a lot of experience there. You have Gunnar Allen, you have Owen Hollenbeck, 2 guys with some potential, but have not played a lot of meaningful snaps at the collegiate level. And so if Jake Michael doesn't go, do you go with one of those guys to get some snaps in a game like against a team like Kent State? Or do you just want to have Michael out there for the communication, for the continuity, especially between him and Michael Hawkins Jr.? You know, Michael Hawkins making his first start of the season. You probably want to have a veteran center out there for your offensive line and for your young quarterback to feel a little bit more comfortable getting out there, understanding the calls, reading the defenses, setting the offense up before the snap, and then being able to trust that the center right in front of you is going to be able to keep your pocket clean so that you can step up into the pocket and make some throws. So I imagine that the starting offensive line at least will look like Logan Howland, and then Heath Ozida at left guard. Center will be Jake Michael. And then I bet Fabechi Wiwu starts at right guard, even if he doesn't play a full complement of snaps. And then at right tackle, you'll get Derek Simmons as well. So that's the group that I think we'll see. Again, you could see Fasusi out there. Sounds like he's healthier, ready to go. But I imagine that they'll try to be a little bit more conservative, understanding that, listen, against Kent State, one of the worst defenses in college football, you've got to kind of lay back a little. You don't have to put your whole team out there, to me, in order for them to go get a game. And listen, I don't want to sit here and disrespect a team. They're a college football team. In a sense, there's any given Saturday mentality that any team could rise up and beat another team, but that's not going to happen this week. You can go out there a little bit with your depth, getting the start, and you can go play a football game, and you can go win this football game and not have to worry about injuring guys and putting guys at risk that you want to have for the Red River Showdown. Giovanni Gibson sounds like he's going to be back and ready to go. Brent Venables talked about not wanting to take anything for granted, and I totally get where he's coming from. He's got some of the same PTSD about Oklahoma's 2024 injury situation that I've got. And he's not going to, count his chickens before they hatch, but it sounds like Giovanni Gibson is progressing towards playing for the Oklahoma Sooners on Saturday against Kent State. And that's great news. On Giovanni Gibson, Brent Venables had this to say. He described him as always open, great catch radius, makes plays in tight competitive coverage, strong hands, makes plays after the catch. And this is what Arbuckle had to say about Giovanni. Excited for him because he loves football and loves being around the team. Mature kid, handles his business well, has been awesome in the final stages of the rehab process, getting extra work in and getting the mental reps in. Excited for him to find his spot. Big time football player. The way he approaches everything is awesome. That's me kind of summing up what Arbuckle and Venables both had to say, but always open. That sounds to me like a guy like CeeDee Lamb. Not just from a, hey, I can create separation standpoint, but I can go and make plays in competitive situations. I can make the contested catch. You can throw the ball to me, whether I'm covered or not, and I'm going to come down with it. And if you have a guy like that, it's such a huge X factor. And I think about Dez Bryant for the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. He wasn't a guy that went out there and created a ton of separation, but you could always throw it to him. And more often than not, he was going to come down with the ball in jump ball situations. So excited to get Giovanni Gibson back. I think that's going to be a huge addition to the offense and a huge addition for Michael Hawkins, because he has shown that he's willing to go just throw it and just put the ball out there and let his guys go make a play, whether it was in the Armed Forces Bowl or, 2 weeks ago against Temple or 3 weeks ago against Temple, when he just said, hey, Elijah Thomas is down there somewhere. I'm going to just chuck it and see if my guy can go make a play. You want a little bit of that in your quarterback. You don't want what we're seeing at Auburn now, a quarterback that doesn't trust what he sees, is unwilling to throw the ball, and is unwilling to put the ball in any kind of compromising situation because either he doesn't trust himself or he doesn't trust his wide receivers to go make plays. And if you've got a guy that you feel like can win the snap or he can win at the catch point, you just got to throw it. So I'm excited to have Giovanni Gibson back. I think it gives Ben Arbuckle so many options out there in the pass concepts. You can run more empty. You can run more 4 and 5 wide receiver looks, with Jaren Kanak being one of those 5. I think it just creates a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunity for the Sooners offense to continue to thrive in the passing game. They've been great in the passing game. In the run game, and that's an area where they'll have to continue to get better. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but the passing game is where they've had a lot of success, and that's because Deion Burks has looked good. Isaiah Satania, Keontae Lewis have all looked really, really good. Now it's time for Giovanni Gibson to go get some reps, get some targets, and let's see. This was a guy that was a star in spring ball. All of the conversations from anybody that got out to practice and were able to watch some of the scrimmages or watch some of the live action in practice, a lot of the highlights that we saw coming out from OU football, Giovanni Gibson was a star in spring ball. And so that's why it was such a bummer when he broke his leg and he was going to be out because he was arguably your best wide receiver in spring ball. Now you've got him available, and hopefully the time off hasn't created so much rust that he's not able to hit the ground running this week. Now he's been practicing with the team. I imagine he's been practicing with the team each of the last several weeks because he's also gone through warmups with the team. He's gone through stretches. He's gone through all that stuff the last 2 games. But it sounds like now he's a full go, and we'll get to see Mr. Giovanni Gibson on Saturday against the Kent State Golden Flashes. Ben Arbuckle and Brent Venables were asked about some of the head coach talk that's been thrown Arbuckle's way. Let's discuss what he had to say coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard us talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you got a question that you want to drop in the chat, please do it. I will answer it here live on the show on this Locked On Live edition as we react to every Brent Venables press conference on the Tuesday after a game. We didn't have one last week because he didn't speak on Tuesday last week, so we're back to our regularly scheduled programming. Well, Ben Arbuckle was asked about head coaching talk because, his name has been popping up a lot in conversations about, hey, who's going to be the next Arkansas head coach, next Oklahoma State head coach, Virginia Tech, UCLA. There have been a number of head coaching jobs already come available, and being one of the more highly thought of offensive coordinators in college football with a Heisman finalist and a #1 overall draft pick that he helped develop, that's going to get you some play in head coaching discussions. But summarizing what Ben Arbuckle had to say, he said he's flattered and hasn't thought about it. He feels responsible to Oklahoma and the kids and putting them in the best position to be successful. Oklahoma is where his loyalty lies. I think that puts an end to it right there. Now, this might be a conversation that comes up again in December or January, but it looks that like Ben Arbuckle is focused on the task at hand, and he's not going to let any of that else come up. I understand why the question has to be asked. It's because just up the road from Norman, you've got a Power 4 coaching position with incredible resources that just came available. Chad Weiberg is probably going to look to make a splash. And what would be splashier than hiring away Oklahoma's offensive coordinator? Arkansas, they're going to be trying to rediscover themselves a little bit after Sam Pittman got fired. So if you get frustrated by the head coaching discussions with Ben Arbuckle, just know that this is going to be a common theme every year with Ben Arbuckle because he is a hot commodity. He's proven to be a quarterback developer. He's proven to have a really good mind for offensive football. He's proven that he can be a part of a winning program. Yes, he's young, but that hasn't seemed to matter anymore. And this is just kind of the beginning of it. And I hope that he's somebody that takes what Brent Venables has to say about, head coaching jobs and opportunities. Just talking about how I think I wrote it down. Maybe I didn't write it down, but Venables basically just said, make sure it's an opportunity that you love and it's too good to pass on. So I think that's where it's at. I think, Brandon, you're right over here in the chat. Certainly not an end to it. Everyone is loyal until money is flashed in front of their face. Dude, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think this is more maybe putting a stamp on it right now and saying, hey, I'm focused on the season. that's the best way that he could answer that question. I think, there's no great way to say it. Like if you say, hey, I'm not interested in any head coaching opportunities, and then down the road, you take a head coaching opportunity, everybody's going to call you a liar. But I think this is probably the best way you could say, hey, I get it. Name's going to come up, but at least he didn't do a Lincoln Riley thing when asked specifically and say, hey, I'm not interested in any head coaching opportunities. He didn't say that. He just said right now, my loyalty is to the University of Oklahoma. And it's the old Dwight Schrute phrase, right, from The Office, where he says, my loyalty is to Dunder Mifflin. But if somebody wanted to pay for that loyalty, then my loyalty would be to them. So, it is what it is. It's college football. It's the way the coaching carousel works. At this level, you're going to get opportunities. The question is going to be, will he jump at the first head coaching opportunity, or will he bide his time and wait for the right head coaching opportunity? That's the part that I think is going to be the most important to follow with Ben Arbuckle. Will he take the first job, or will he take the right job? Because he's going to have a lot of opportunities. There are going to be SEC teams that see what he does, and they're going to come after him, and they're going to try and woo him away from Oklahoma. That's the reality. We're in Big 12 country. There are going to be Big 12 programs that do the same thing. He's a Texas kid. There will be Texas schools that look at him and think, hey, he could be our head coach. What will he do? Now, the good thing for Oklahoma is that there are head coaches right now at the G5 level that are gaining a lot of traction. The GJ Kinneys, the Alex Grosh out at USF, John Summerall at Tulane, that have proven that they can be a part of a program and build a program and be the head coach of a program, so that you're not necessarily, Ben Arbuckle might not be like the top name on the list, right? I think that's where Oklahoma's kind of in a good spot. So we'll just wait and see. I mean, if he goes and puts Oklahoma into the college football playoff, this conversation is going to continue. If they go and they beat Texas, that the conversation is going to continue. It's not going to go away until Ben Arbuckle is a head coach. Let's just be real about it. I think we all understood that was going to be part of it when he came to Oklahoma, right? Was that he's a hot young offensive coordinator with a lot of buzz surrounding his name for what he did with Cam Ward, for what he did with John Mateer. And that buzz isn't going to go away, especially if he has success with Ben Arbuckle, or with Michael Hawkins Jr. or with Bo Bentley down the road. The conversation's not going anywhere. So kind of get used to it. My biggest question when it comes to offensive coordinator is, what happens when he leaves? One of my biggest criticisms of the way the offensive staff is built is there's nobody that can be an heir apparent that's from Ben Arbuckle's coaching tree that'll take over. John Kusiewski, unless Oklahoma decides to money whip him and give him his first opportunity to call plays, which I doubt that they do, he's probably following Arbuckle wherever he goes to be the offensive coordinator, wherever Ben Arbuckle goes to get a head coaching job. So again, it's a conversation that's not going away. It'll be a part of the conversation as long as Oklahoma continues to have success. And as Brandon says, it's just a business. And none of us here would blame him for taking a significant pay raise at some point. That is, I don't think it's immediate. I agree. I don't think it's immediate. I think he'll be here a couple years. I think it'll be similar to I don't think it'll be like the Jeff Lebby thing where he was kind of ready to go because of a lot of things that happened around the program and around him. So my hope is that he kind of takes a Brent Venables approach. Now, this is the naive thinking, the Brent Venables approach, where I'm going to stay at a place for 10 years and I'm going to be there until the right job comes available. In my sunshine and rainbow, dreaming of unicorns, hope for Oklahoma's offensive coordinator situation, that would be perfection. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's the reality. But you never know. You never know what's in a guy's head and what he values and where his priorities lie. So I'm just excited to see him call the plays this Saturday against Kent State with Michael Hawkins Jr. as the starting quarterback. Really looking forward to that. Ben Arbuckle and Brent Venables both had things to say about Michael Hawkins Jr. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Whether you're trying to, get in on some over-unders, if you're trying to bet some futures, because as the weeks go along and the seasons change, those future bets can change a little bit as well. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started at FanDuel.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to a show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to talk more about a lot of what Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle had to say during their press conferences when we have our regular show with Jay that'll publish tomorrow. But this is a great way to just kind of live react to the things that stood out. Another thing that really stood out, hadn't even touched on this yet, but Jay Knott. Ben Arbuckle was asked about Jay Knott, and he said he had a great bye-week practice. This is me just kind of summing up what he said. Had a great urgency about him and followed that up with a great walkthrough on Monday. Excited for him and the opportunities that could come his way. That's not to say that he's ascended back to RB1 or that he's even RB2, but they're encouraged by where he's at now going into the Kent State game. So hopefully there's a little bit better understanding of the offense. Hopefully his shoulder's feeling a little bit better and he's healthier and he's feeling more confident as he goes into this next week. You're going to need everybody. I mean, for this team to be successful this year, you're going to need everybody to play well. And hopefully he's kind of turning his game up a little bit. Eyes wide open, maybe after not really getting many opportunities in the Michigan game or the Auburn game. Time to kind of step your game up a little bit. So let's take a look at what they had to say about Michael Hawkins Jr. Here's what Brent had to say. Oh, here's what Brent had to say. Yeah, about Michael Hawkins Jr. He said, Mike's come a long way. He was very insulated in learning from people around him last year, but also went on to say that the people in the room matter. There's been such a benefit to Michael Hawkins Jr. over the last 9 months, because he's gotten to learn from John Mateer, who led the nation in total touchdowns last year, and Ben Arbuckle, one of the hot young offensive coordinators in college football, and John Kuzieski, a guy with a track record for helping quarterbacks develop, whether it's Bailey Sapp or Cam Ward or John Mateer. I mean, that group has been awesome. And Michael Hawkins Jr. has had an opportunity to learn from him and from them, to sit under John Mateer's tutelage over the last 9 months, to learn from Ben Arbuckle and John Kuzieski. And last year, that wasn't the case. Oklahoma didn't have a legit quarterbacks coach. They had Seth Luttrell, Joe John Finley, and then they brought Kevin Johns on as an analyst, but it sounded like he wasn't necessarily being brought along. He wasn't being developed. He wasn't being instructed or given continuous feedback as practices went along and as the season went along. And Jackson Arnold had his own fish to fry, really, and wasn't going to have the experience or the knowledge to be able to speak to a kid like Michael Hawkins Jr. And so Michael Hawkins Jr. is in a much better situation now because he's got the opportunity to learn from a quarterback with experience and under offensive minded guys that have shown to be very successful at the collegiate level. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for what he's got to show. Ben Arbuckle had this to say about his initial impressions of Hawkins when he met him. Wildly talented, great arm strength, ability to extend plays, quick release, special things. He's able to do special things with his legs and with his speed. Being able to be the quarterback in bowl prep was huge for him. He's a smart kid, fun to be around, has put in the work to be a really good football player, excited about the opportunities ahead of him, good football player, and really good at a lot of things. And then he talked about his role in making sure that Michael Hawkins Jr. or any of the quarterbacks are successful. It's figuring out the things that they do well, putting them in the position to do those things, and about finding the things that maybe they don't do as well and helping to develop those things, enhance the strengths, develop the weaknesses. That's the coach's job. And Michael Hawkins Jr. does have some of those things. He does have a quick release. He does have a strong arm. He is really, really fast. He's athletic. He's got a good vision for the game. He just needs some help around him. And I think we saw at times last year that there was a lot of potential, and he flashed in a lot of ways, whether it was the Tennessee game or the Auburn game or, the game against Navy. I think there were ways that he flashed. Was he perfect? No. Was he good? I don't know if I'd say good, but there were moments that he looked really good. So I'm excited to see what he can be now with 9 months of just better development around him, better coaching around him, a quarterback that he can actually learn from and sit behind. The cast of characters around him. John Jay say he has a better cast around him. Absolutely right. The offensive line is pass protecting a whole lot better than it did when he had to face Texas and South Carolina last year, or Auburn even. The wide receiver core around him is so much better. Like last year, we couldn't keep anybody healthy. This year, we're getting healthier as we go into Michael Hawkins Jr. first start. Awesome. You've got guys that have collegiate production to their name that he's going to be throwing to, guys with experience that he's going to be throwing to. That's huge, man. It matters. When you're going from guys that have produced at the collegiate level, like Deion Burks and Isaiah Satania and Giovanni Gibson and Keontez Lewis, what we have this year. And then you look at last year and it was JJ Hester and Brennan Thompson, who, had a few catches under their stat log, but had never really produced at the same way in the same level that all the guys that Michael Hawkins Jr. is going to have an opportunity to throw to this Saturday have produced. So it's a very different ball game. Jaren Kanak at tight end. He's already off to a great start to his tight end career. He's doing some really fun things out there. That's a much better situation than he had last year. You've got dynamic playmakers all over the field. Maybe the only thing that isn't better is the run game, but man, I think they have the opportunity to get that going, get that looking better. They know it's not good. They just have to become more efficient. They have to be a little bit more productive. And I think they can be. Ben Arbuckle spoke about the run game. He was asked, he said, we have to efficiently run the football to win games. During the bye week, they had identified a lot of things that they can get better at, not just at running the football, but in a lot of areas. He believes they will get better running the ball, and he's excited for the guys. So, if Ben Arbuckle, again, one of the more highly thought of offensive minds in college football, believes that they will get better running the football, man, I'm going to believe it too. Of course, he's not going to go out there and say, nope, we're terrible, we suck, we're not going to ever get better. At the same time, he could talk about the challenges and the issues, or talk about guys need to step up or things like that. No, he's seen the product. He's seen the work that they put in on the practice field in the film room, and he believes that they can get better. So I think they will too. I think, yes, they played against two really good run defenses, but that's not an excuse, because this past weekend we saw good offenses play good run defenses, and those good offenses still find a way to run the football. So Oklahoma's got to find a way to run the football with their traditional run game. Torrey Blaylock, Xavier Robinson, Javante Barnes, Jay Knott, they've all got to be a part of it. The offensive line has to improve their run blocking, and they just have to be more explosive off the line of scrimmage, create more movement, and get better on that front. What else here? Just looking for any more notes that I've got here on this. I think if anything, Brent Venables spoke about the one possession nature of the SEC, and how every game comes down to a few plays here, a few plays there, and every play is a little bit more magnified. And I think that's the reality that maybe isn't setting in necessarily, but that's the reality for the rest of the season. With Oklahoma's schedule after Kent State, you're going to be in some tight ball games from the Texas weekend on out. And it's going to be a matter of taking care of the football and creating turnovers. And Venables talked about how they got to create more turnovers. They've got to. They can't just get by playing great team defense. That's part of it. But also they've got to improve their ability to create turnovers. And also said the thing that I said on the show a couple times this week, that at least even though they're not creating turnovers, they're not in those situations where everybody's just swiping at the ball, but nobody's making a tackle. I'm really glad that he pointed that out, because there's nothing more frustrating to me than everybody going to try to strip the ball and the guy gains 5 to 10 more yards because nobody's trying to tackle him. So hopefully the turnovers start to come, and I think they will. You know, they were close a couple times against Auburn. Jackson Arnold tried to give it to him a couple of times, and they were like, no, thank you. I think just a little bit too excited, got to slow down a little bit and just let the game come to you. And if they keep doing what they're doing, the turnovers are going to be there because they're getting to the quarterback. They're affecting the passing game. They're, hitting the quarterback hard. And eventually the ball is going to pop out one time when R. Mason Thomas comes around the edge and cracks the quarterback on the blind side. The ball is going to come out. Or Jaden Jackson steps up into the pocket, or Grayson Halton steps up, or David Stone steps up and just smashes the quarterback. That ball is going to come out eventually. Peyton Bowen is going to get an interception. Gentry Williams, Eli Bowen, those guys have proven that they can pick off passes. So I expect them to as well. This is going to be, I think they get their first turnover this week, and I bet they get multiple this week. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get multiple against Texas the week after, because Arch has shown that he's willing to give the ball away too. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners Live. Thanks again to everybody for showing up and being a part of the chat. We appreciate you guys tuning in for this live reaction show to Brent Venables' press conference on Tuesdays. We're doing this every single week, unless they don't have one during the bye, then in which case we won't be here, but we will be here Tuesday for a reaction show to Brent Venables' press conference. We'll have our regularly scheduled stuff tomorrow morning for you on the audio side and on YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow my buddy Jay at Unfair Sports and go check out his channel Unfair Sports over on YouTube. You can follow me at John 9 Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, for my partner Jay, I'm John Williams. Boomer Sooner. Bye weeks are fun, but man, I am ready for some football. Let's go.